Welcome back to the Never Normal podcast. I'm your host, Britt. This episode, Miss Meghanne is here again.
I'm just staying. I'm just hanging out.
She just lives here at this point. So today we're going to talk about paranormal teams on the podcast. If you're listening, thank you for listening. If you're watching, thank you for watching. Go listen, and if you're listening, go watch. That way you can watch us.
Have the full experience. Surround sound. You know what I'm saying?
Surround with everything.
Get that picture.
So we're going to kind of talk about like paranormal teams, kind of things that we like and things that we dislike. And
are we talking about discernment a little bit too here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna kind of break into some things because, I'm glad that we're talking about this. We have an upcoming residential investigation, Casey and I do, and I'm not going to disclose anything because it's private residence kind of thing, but I was on the phone with this guy for 2 hours yesterday, and we were talking about how he's had other paranormal teams and investigators and stuff, and scams, stuff like that, and things to kind of watch out for, all that. And
like, hey, you'll have to pay me $200 to come to your house and help you out,
Yeah. So we're gonna kind of just talk a little bit about as far as like paranormal teams. So you were on a team, correct?
For a short amount of time, yeah, I was. So the thing that really kicked off, so if you've listened to or watched their episodes that I was in early on, I think that was the first one we talked about some of my personal experiences and the man on the stairs story and everything. And so if you haven't heard that, please go back and watch that one at some point.
I'll link it right here, right now.
Yeah.
In a little card.
There. So, that'll give you some point of reference for where I was coming from at the time. Now, this was last year. This hasn't been very long. So I had that experience with the man on the stairs situation entity in March. At this point in time, when I joined the group, I wasn't really sure what the man on the stairs things was. Excuse me, I'm not talking correctly. The man on the stairs situation, I wasn't sure what he was. I wasn't sure if he was a ghost, if he was a demon. Like, I had that, like, scary moment. Is it a demon? Demons in my house? It's usually not a demon. I'm going to be honest. It's demons, or it's usually not that. Whole ass rant
about that, but anyways,
not. And I was scared and unaware of what was going on at the time, so that was like obviously one of those fear thoughts that crossed through my brain, but that didn't
of course, yeah.
Anyway, but I was curious. That opened the door to my true curiosity because it kind of broke the mold of like, before my biggest fear was seeing something, but now that I'd seen something, I was like, well, maybe I can do this. Maybe this is something I can actually dive into, And
I will preface on that. When you actually see it, one of two things happens. You either shit your pants and you're done with it, or you get this
curiosity,
incurable fascination with what was it that
What was it? You have to figure it out. Yeah.
Like, what is it, and can you make it happen again? Can you experience that rush again?
So, like, there's a lot of factors that go with that, and I was on, fortunately or unfortunately, more on the curiosity side of things because, yes, he scared me, but, like, I also did. I wanted to know what the hell I saw, if it was real, which the thing that kept me from thinking I was nuts was the fact that I had somebody else with me that also not only saw the same thing, but before I even got to explain what it was, they told me what they saw, and it was the same thing. So it was like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, maybe it's actually real. Because I think if my friend hadn't been with me at the time, I don't know that I think I would have just thought I was going crazy.
Yeah, you would have been like at the psych ward, like, hey, listen.
I might be having a psychosis moment. So, So, I had that validation, which I was very lucky and thankful for. But a couple months later, I think it was like August of last year, is when I was like, at this point too, like I read cards. I've read cards since I was 15, so about a decade of reading cards. But I hadn't really I hadn't dived deep into tarot in particular until the last like 3 or 4 years, and I feel like I've gotten pretty decent at it at this point. But it was one of those things where I was starting to learn how to use my pendulum and starting to learn how to use, you know, tarot and everything, and like, you know, different divination methods. I was kind of experimenting with a little bit, trying to figure out, you know, what my niche was or what I enjoyed or what worked the best for me. So like I was doing a lot of like occult work at the time, like buying a lot of occult books, trying to like figure out what niche I kind of wanted to figure out. So like that was also a factor for me, but I also really wanted to see if there was a scientific explanation for a lot of this stuff, because while I am very like fantastical, my brain does like to make things up, I really do like to have a logical reason behind it if I can. I would like to debunk everything behind it so I know that my experience is valid. So that's why I started looking for the paranormal investigation group stuff, and I was like, well, if it comes to me, then it's meant to be, you know? And I was looking through like Facebook back in the day when they had Facebook job listings, which they don't have those really as much anymore, weirdly enough. But at that time, there was a listing for, you know, volunteer work with a paranormal investigation group in my area. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out what all to say about it and what to be respectful about. But the group initially, I was very excited about. I was like, finally, you know, there's people that like feel the same way I do, think the same way I do. I thought maybe, you know, the first person I spoke to claimed Cherokee heritage, and I'm not saying this person didn't have that at all, but they also claimed to be a shaman, which I thought was a little... At first, I believed it, and I had spoken to this person over the phone and everything, and I was like, okay, cool. But I also, when I saw them, I expected to, when I saw them in person, see them maybe as more ethnic. Differently than how they appeared. It was definitely not how I would have assumed a Cherokee shaman to look. But like, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. I always live by that. I try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, so I was like, I don't know this person's background. Maybe they really do have genuine experience in shamanism, you know? And I didn't know that much about shamanism, but I know it takes a lot to get there, especially to call yourself a shaman. It's not necessarily just because, you know, I was born into this heritage.
There is a big responsibility that goes with those types of titles.
Well, this person abused it. And this person might be mad, but I don't even, you know. This person abused their role, and this is where we're going to talk about some discernment, because I am a kind person. I try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And, like, I'll be honest, a lot of these people gave me huge red flags when I first met them. But, like, again, benefit of the doubt. Like, I don't know these people. They don't know me. Like, they don't know my background. They could probably think the same thing of me that I'm thinking of them. So, like, let's see where it all takes us. And I'm not saying that there weren't individuals within the group that did have genuine, like, sensitivities, etc. But like, so there was like the sensitive group, part of the group, what's it called? More like the intuitives. And then they were the logic-based individuals. So like that was kind of how the group was split up, which is a great balance in theory. You know, like, I think that there needs to be a little bit of both, but it needs to be genuine on both sides.
Yes. Yeah.
So, there were some younger individuals that were also in the group that had, like, just joined or had, like, I say younger, but, like, younger within the group. Like, they just kind of moved in and everything. And I think groups like this, too, they tend to attract people who really like attention. So there were a couple of those individuals within the group that were just super into the attention aspect. And there's one person out of that group that I'm still in contact with that I still very much love and appreciate and respect. She is a lovely individual. She is one of the co-owners. I am a big fan of her, just because she is so genuine and, like, means well and, like, really wanted to make sure that what was happening was appropriate, right? So, you know, there was a lot of, like, drama within the group. There was a lot of lies that went around. There was purposeful lies to trick me and a friend of mine about one of the individuals, about who they were and their identity. I'm not going to get into details, but it was just, like, purposeful lying just to see what happens. Yeah. Well, they wanted to lie about it and see what the outcome would be, to see if, A, people believed it, and B, well, you know, to just create like drama. Like that was the whole point of it. But it's like, aren't we here to like look for ghosts and like debunk things, and like isn't there an actual purpose of this group that's outside of let's just trick people and lie to people who, by the way, like are on the neurodivergent spectrum. So like again, I personally, I am on that spectrum, and like I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I try to believe in the truth of what people are saying. Like, I don't want to think you're a liar, and it's kind of weird to try to make me, to make me guess. Why do people do that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
it seems like they just enjoyed the game.
Yeah, they enjoyed the game aspect of it, and like there were other people that were claiming to be logical people that were also in on the game aspect of it, and like they really lied about who they were too. But I did some readings for these people as well, and it all came out in the readings. Everyone was like, well, these two people go at each other's throat all the time, blah blah blah. I'm gonna get in so much trouble. I don't even care. But I want to make sure that we're aware that like if you have a red flag within a group, if your gut is like, ugh, like something doesn't feel right, you're probably in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that first initial instinctual feeling, trust it, because I had, it's not that I am sad that I had these experiences, because I think they helped me grow. I think that I was supposed to be within this group. I was supposed to learn these lessons, and it was actually a huge lesson of discernment for me. Mm-hmm. But like I did readings for these individuals, and it was always come up that these people like had this very close bond, even though they were always going at each other's throats. And I think a lot of it, honestly, was because they liked to go at each other's throats. Like it was like a fun game for them as well. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not trying to air nobody's dirty business out, but it's like there was like skeeviness behind even the relationship they were like pretending to have outwardly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't know. There was a lot of that going on, and then there was a lot of genuinity from certain individuals that really did want to like find out and like had find out if the paranormal is real and everything. But I don't know, definitely use your discernment. If you're somebody who does practice with divination tools, I think it's always a good idea to like, if you have that gut feeling, find that validation within your divination tools, validate that feeling you're having, you know what I'm saying? And if not, just trust yourself.
and I always tell people too, because I am not a part of any paranormal groups, and it's really hard to actually get into paranormal groups in my area because it's very much who you know, and it's very much how well people like you, and all this stuff. But I always tell people to go on an investigation with these people. Because,
just one and try it out.
Yeah, because that's when you see these people in the field, they're completely different than they are. And myself included, I'm completely different than like I am outside of here. When I'm in an investigation, I'm extremely focused. I'm extremely driven towards finding those answers. But there's a lot. I think it's very important. And you also got to look too for people, scammers. Like, I don't charge for investigations. If someone's calling me in to help, they need help. And I think it's my job as someone who's into this and who has somewhat of an understanding, not really an understanding, but like a grasp
I think it's
certain things to help these people.
It's definitely, I see it one way as like, if you're somebody who's like, I feel like the groups that are nonprofits are probably the most, like, the safest ones to go with, the ones that aren't going to charge for their, investigations and everything. I think it's fine if they have, like, a name and they want to sell t-shirts or something like that, like another stream of income, that's fine. I'm not saying you can't make money off this kind of thing. However, and this group was also a nonprofit. Like, I'm not saying they weren't taking money, they weren't trying necessarily to scam anyone. And I think if they were able to work all together and, like, be genuine and stop lying about stuff with each other and playing games,
their own issues,
they actually would have been very successful. Yeah. I really do genuinely think that, because they actually had a lot of really good contacts. And the problem is, like, and we talked about this off camera, I think, but like the problem is sometimes there are scammers who are intuitives, but they're not using their intuition. They're not using this foresight for good. They're using it to play a game, which, like, do you, but let's not ruin or mess up or upset other people's life just for your weird fun whatever. Casey and I this time last year did a residential case, and Bloody was like, well, how much are you going to charge? How much are you going to charge? I was like, I'm not going to charge you anything. She's like, well, I want to give you something. I was like, you give me whatever you think it's worth. Right.
Like, if you feel like I'm able to help you and you want to do that, that's fine. If not, like, I'm still going to go to sleep at night because I'm doing what I can to help you, kind of thing. And I think, with some groups, again, I'm not in any groups or anything, but there's that loss of genuine, this is what we're here for. Everyone is trying to be the next big thing. Yeah. Or they're trying to get that shock factor.
It's a lot of like narcissism sometimes too. Like attention seeking behavior.
Yeah, and there's a lot of performative behaviors as well. Okay, so it's been about an hour.
Technical difficulties.
Our battery died. But we have been doing a lot of filming, a lot of content, so kind of figured. But we were talking about performative behaviors in paranormal groups and things, and kind of what to look out for. That was a cat toy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was my foot.
It was a cat toy. It's totally fine. I step on them daily. But yeah, so, I mean, really, my pet peeves in the group are you have the one that thinks they know it all, the one that, the toxic leadership, and then the person that wants to be a leader. Like, there's so much in a paranormal group.
And those that, like, just want attention. Like, they're just there to, like... Sometimes I wonder if they're just there to, like, actively, like, mess up the data. Like, I know that sounds very, like, mischievous or malicious, and, like, I don't know if it's always intentional, but, like, you know, we had this one individual that, like, it doesn't matter how many times, like, when some of the older members of the group said, hey, like, hang back, like, don't wander off, or, like, don't do this, or, like, hey, like, let's be respectful of the area and not, like, take pictures and videos of things we probably shouldn't. And they're like, oh, it's fine, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't feel anything, you don't have to feel anything, but back the F up.
Yeah.
You know, like be respectful at least.
Like, it's not about feeling something or anything, it's about respecting the space, which is very important when you're looking for a paranormal group or a paranormal investigator in general, as someone who is respectful of the spaces they're going into. I tell people, do not trespass because you ruin it for the rest of us. And I tell people too, like, be respectful. Don't go in there leaving your trash, dirtying things up. If you see trash, pick it up. Yeah. Don't go in there painting, graffiti, that kind of thing. And it's so frustrating because you get people now that just walk into a haunted location like they own it.
And why are we doing the whole Zach Bragan's antagonizing BS? You know what I mean? Like, let's just go ahead and, if anyone's doing that, that's an automatic red flag in my mind. Like, now, my group didn't do that so much. I will say, at least when I was with them, overall, they weren't antagonizing anything. When I was with them, I heard things prior that, you know, some of them were people who were, like, playing pranks on people during an investigation and stuff. Like, oh, everyone's scared already, let's go ahead and, like, you know what I'm saying?
Let's throw some fuel on that.
But why would we do that? Because now we're raising everyone's anxiety. So if there really is anything for the sensitives to feel or anybody else to feel, you've automatically created an issue where... You've
contaminated the environment.
You've contaminated it, exactly. So it's like... Are we taking this seriously, or are we just a couple of teenagers jacking off in the corner, you know?
The way that I look at paranormal investigations is a controlled experiment. We are experimenting to see if the paranormal exists. And whenever you do things like that, now I do believe there's a difference between antagonizing and provoking, because I have provoked before. I have been like, you know, you poke this person and scare them, why don't you come and poke me? I won't be scared.
That's still within the realm of respect, though.
But whenever you start throwing slurs and things like that out, I'm not saying that Zach has ever thrown slurs out. I don't know anything about him or nothing like that.
No, he's just mostly antagonistic.
He's very much for the drama.
Sure, yeah.
I saw someone do an edit, because there is someone that on TikTok does not like him very much, and that's fine, but it's one of those that sound that's like, am I the drama? And it's just shots of... I don't know him personally or anything, so I can't say anything. You know, I think
he's
it's
very
all
performative.
I think it's all in good fun, whatever. But I think there's a difference between, you know, provoking and then what you were saying. There's just like a heavily, like, you're really just
antagonizing.
Yes, and you're just going on and everything.
And also, I'm gonna be honest, what entity would want to hang around that? You know what I mean? Like Like, they're either, if they are, like, malicious, they're probably gonna, like, sure, I guess you're gonna get a malicious pushback. Or if they're not, or, like, they don't have the time of day to deal with someone disrespecting them, then you've just ruined your investigation, and now they don't want to hang out with you anymore.
And too, when you've got something that acts a little more maliciously, and you're sitting there, I want you to do this, it's not going to give you what you want.
Good example, actually. I have one from the investigation I went on. Half of the team that was being a little bit rowdy and inappropriate in my opinion, being inappropriate for the surroundings, they had left when we'd gotten there. We got there a little late, and I had come to planned on doing a tarot reading for the investigation and everything. We had a little background on the place. We did a investigation on, it was an old library, Webb Memorial in North Carolina, and we were in the last groups that got to actually go in and investigate, which was really cool. And it was a beautiful library. They were about to close it down for good too, so it was a cool experience overall. Anyway, so the first half of the group that was like being a little too much left. I was left with more grounded individuals at the time, and we had a really great investigation, in my opinion. It actually went really well. I'm glad it worked out the way it did, and I'm kind of glad we came late. But so the way we did it too, so like when I finally set up to do my tarot reading and everything, there was several different entities I did readings for, and we unfortunately don't have a lot of like historical fact to base off of my reading. We'd have a spirit box session that went along with it, so we have the responses from the spirit box session, as I was doing the reading, which was kind of cool, because it was very much intelligent responses to what I was pulling, which was neat. But so one of the entities that I had to deal with, so it was like children, a mother figure, and a father figure, and the mother figure was not the nicest. It came out that the children were scared of her, the father was obsessed with her, like she was his whole life, but in an obsessive way, not like in a toxic way, not in like a loving way. And so when I started talking to the mother figure, I tried to be very respectful. Some of the other people I was with, when I explained that, like, you know, she was not the nicest to her children and everything, I think even my husband tried to make, like, he was trying to be nice about it, but, like, he made, like, a comment about how she was, like, the worst, essentially, or that she was, like, traumatizing to her kids and everything, and I was like, okay, let's bring it down. Let's bring it down a notch, because, like, I wasn't afraid of her being provoked. Like, I wasn't afraid of her coming at us or doing anything to us.
Yeah, but you still wanted to be respectful of that.
I also didn't want her to leave the reading.
Yeah.
I had to finish the reading, so it was like, I don't want her to get pissed at whatever y'all are saying and then not want to respond anymore, because I would really like to continue getting any information I could out of this entity. Right. Because, like, even though she was semi-malicious in terms of, like, her intention, at least in life, I don't know, you know, death or whatever, but she, you know, was at least giving me answers. She seemed very narcissistic in her personality and, like, how she handled things in her lifetime and everything. She was the worst, if we're gonna be honest, but I tried to be very respectful in how I handled the whole situation. I'm going to send you the clips and everything to just show that, like, I was simply asking her questions and going about it and being respectful. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Okay. You know, quite genuinely down to that, because I wanted to get as much information as possible. And how are you supposed to do that if you're just being an asshole to these entities? Like, yeah, she may have been the worst, but if I want to, this is a controlled environment as best as possible. I'm trying to get as much information for these people as possible. You know, that's my role here, and I don't want to be disrespectful or have anyone in the group be disrespectful to an entity that we could potentially get more information from.
Yeah, well, and it's like, I very much believe, I'm very passionate about this, and it's a lesson that I learned from watching Ghost Hunters, actually. I'm a huge fan of Grant Wilson. He's a phenomenal human being. He's an amazing musician. Yeah. He's left the paranormal field, which I hate, because I think he served his purpose, though. He was very needed. He was very, very grounding in a time when people found the paranormal kind of scary. Right. But also when things took off and people are always doing the next hype thing of demons and scariness, he was very real. Sure. About things. And Amy Bruni also says this in her book right here, Life of the Afterlife. Amy Bruni, I absolutely love her. She also has a podcast called Haunted Road. But anyways, entities, like human entities, of course, they were people once. And they may have done terrible things. They have made mistakes like we have. But I think it's very important that we remember when we're communicating with these intelligent hauntings is that they were people once. Good or bad. And we need to understand that. And we need to understand that we're talking to a person. They may not be physically with us on this plane, but we're very much talking to a person and to someone who, I mean, we don't know who they are now.
It's not our place to judge them.
No.
It's not our place to judge the actions they took, even if they were horrific, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I have to come, at least with my readings and everything, because I do tarot readings for people, I try to come at a very neutral standpoint, because it's not my place to judge. Like, it really comes down to, I'm just trying to give you whatever facts I can give you, and, you know, work with that information. But it's not our place to judge these people who've passed, because who knows what their life created for other people. You know what I'm saying? Bad or good, they served a purpose. They had their life, and we have to be respectful of the life that they lived.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we could hate them.
Yeah, we can. We can totally hate them, but we shouldn't in that kind of environment.
Like, if they're a racist piece of shit, like, we hate you.
Well, and like,
we'll
obviously,
but
she was a narcissistic mother. She was evil to her children. She made this poor man's life a living hell. But I wasn't in that moment when I'm doing the investigation. I can't sit and be mad at her for those choices. You know?
Yeah.
Has to be neutral.
Yeah, no, I just think, you know, it's very important that when you're going into something, you know, you're educated on it, of course, but you're also very much, what's the word I'm looking for? Realistic in the sense of what you're talking to and how you're talking to that thing and the respect. If you come into a space and you don't respect or you have no intention of respecting, I very much believe, I don't know how you feel, that the space can pick up on that and the space will react accordingly.
Yeah, no, I 100% believe that.
Oh, sorry, OCD.
Oh, you're fine. You lined that up. Yes.
Perfect.
Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. And then, you know, I really think too, paranormal groups research is 90% of the job. 10% is the investigation.
Yeah.
Well, I would say research is 90%. Investigation is 5%.
Yeah.
And then evidence, collecting your evidence is the last 5%. But research, fact versus fiction, is a big thing. So when you're looking for groups, or I pay close attention to groups, I love to go and look at their evidence and look at their findings and their experiences. And then I like to go and I like to research the location and compare notes.
One thing I wanted to do with this group before things kind of hit the fan was something I had suggested was a way to control it even more was to have like a group of people, especially the logic-based people, do the research, know everything about the location they're going into, and then having the intuitives or whoever is going to come to do any type of reading or divination or like give any type of feeling or whatever it is, to have no knowledge of the area.
Yeah, fly blind. Oh, that would be so cool.
Because then you have a controlled environment and area of, okay, so we do have information, we know the information, the logic-based people have that information, so they are less biased. So when they get that information, or they might be more biased, but they actually have, like, the proof behind it. So, like, when those things come in with, like, you know, from the spirit box or the EVPs or whatever it is, like, they have some context. But then you have the sensitives go in and do their divination or have their feelings and say whatever they need to say about it and see how much lines up and is legitimate to the actual history of the place. I think that would make it a lot more controlled. That's what I was trying to do with them.
Well, there's a lot of groups that do that, a lot of functional groups.
I think that would be the best way to do it.
And I think that's super, I think it's really neat. I mean, I'm not an investigation, I'm not that one. I am the logical science-based. I go in to debunk and, you know, what I can't.
But that's necessary, too.
Yeah, what I can't say is, hey, you know, your door's closing because your house isn't level. I don't know if you knew this, or like the door jamb is like warped. It's not Sally, it's actually really bad carpentry. You know, like it's
physics. So.
It's literal science. And then, you know, when I can explain it, that's when I get excited and I'm like, wait a minute, you know, this is really cool. I've never worked with anyone on the intuitive side. I've always done, when I do things, I'm either solo or like Casey is he's like me, we're very logic based. I mean,
That's so helpful, though.
We understand the spiritual importance of things.
Sure.
But
if you're going to have a group, I think you shouldn't fly blind and just be the intuitive person going in, being like, hi, you know what I mean? Like, there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a appropriate balance of like, and honestly, the spiritual aspect isn't always needed. I just like it because it adds a whole other level to proof, especially if they go in blind.
Yeah.
So, like, I think it's an extra cool thing to have, but I think that you can do the paranormal stuff without that. Does that make sense? You don't have to have that at all,
well,
obviously.
No, I mean, I've had some really cool stuff, you know, without all of that. But I think it's cool when groups also have someone like intuitive that can come in. It is helpful.
It's an extra tool.
You've got someone, yes, it's an extra tool and an extra asset where you can, especially I've seen where it like bounces off of each other and you fill in gaps and blanks and it makes so much sense. I think it's dangerous mentally for intuitives to just go in.
Yeah.
And I say that in the most loving way.
Let's also remember, too, that protection is such an important part of it, especially for the intuitives.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're going in blind, you don't know the history of the place. The history could be really dark. You don't know what you're stepping into. You know, and like before I went on that investigation, like I have my own little ritualistic things. I wore you can see me wearing my hat in like the video I showed you. Before I left, I took that hat and I did my own little like protective thing to where, you know, protect your crown. Everyone talks about that kind of stuff. Like, as real or not real as you want to believe it is, I think just setting the intention for there's nothing allowed to follow me home. There's nothing allowed to get into my personal space unless I allow it, you know? Like, it's like I'm going to allow myself to channel whatever energy is there without taking it in.
Yeah, and
which is important.
Boundaries. And I mean, and it's funny because, you know, you're more the intuitive and I'm more the logical. It's the same thing with the logical side. You set boundaries when you go into a location. When I go into locations, I say, hey, you know, you're welcome to communicate with me. But depending on my mood and the type of activity, I'll say, you know, the only way you can communicate with me is to pull my hair, pull it.
Yeah.
You know, or some locations I'll be like...
But you've given that permission and consent then.
Yes. But some locations I'll be like, don't try it. I am not the one today. Today's not the day for that. I am not scared of you. I do respect you, but I expect the same. But, you know...
And it is draining, too.
And setting those boundaries with locations, but also with your teammates, I think is very important. I have seen a lot of people... I've seen a lot of people on logical and intuitive side... have really bad experiences and not want to work with groups again at all and get out of it entirely because you know, the teammates that they had, they were not respectful of them and their boundaries in that professional sense.
Well, like I said earlier, like somebody taking pictures and videos and wandering off into places that they were already told, hey, let's not. You know what I mean? Like, that's automatically... That's a good example of needing to set a boundary with your teammates of, like, okay, we can go in here, we can do this, but we have to, like, follow my lead. Or, like, set expectations for everyone, because humans need that in general. We just need our expectations set. I think things go a lot better when we do that. Yeah.
Well, we're taught to be so goal-oriented.
Sure.
Our entire
but
lives.
if you don't make things clear with some people, they just do what they want. And, like, sometimes, especially if you're the leader of this group, you have to set that boundary and say, hey, we're in a private residence, so we can't go here, or touch these things, or, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and there were a lot of boundaries, I feel like, that were crossed, but... I didn't know better at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Within that group circle I was in. But you should go in with protection and boundaries are like number one rule. Doesn't always have to be metaphysical or whatever, but like physically.
Yeah, establish.
And if you're with a group that like breaks those boundaries after you've set them, that's another red flag. Walk away, you know?
And and understand that it's okay to walk away, even if they try to throw a fit and stink about it and like,
screw that.
Oh, you must not be in it for the right reason, blah, blah, blah. Be like, listen, you have your reasons and I have mine. And it's like you just rip the Band-Aid off and you go your separate ways kind of thing. It saves a lot of trouble in the long run, I personally think.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's super important to just have all of that established, but it's big about discernment, and I think at the end of the day, like, doing it by yourself or with people that you trust and know very well is probably the best way to go about it instead of just joining a big group. Like, it's great that they have the fancy toys and everything, but at the end of the day, you can also buy the fancy toys.
Well, but like in my investigations, I was talking to that guy yesterday, and he was like, well, what all equipment do you have? I was like, I think less is more. Especially in residential cases, less is more. I don't need a bunch of static night vision cameras, and as much as I would love to have a ghost box, I don't have to have one yet.
No.
You know, like I have a digital voice recorder, I have a camera, I have mics, and then I have an EMF detector just to check on electromagnetic field for people in general. But you know, when I say, like, and that's a big thing for me, is a lot of people feel like when you get into it now, you have to have all this equipment and all this stuff for you to even be taken seriously. You don't. It's just how you present yourself. I
think on one episode you even talked about how you can use your phone's recorder. Not the apps or anything, not the ghost apps, but like the phone's recorder. You don't have to, like, you already have that in your pocket. Yeah. You know, so for me, my biggest tool that I like the most is the ghost box, because I feel like I've gotten the best responses with it in regards to like the readings I've done with it and everything. But like a ghost box and EMF detector are like the two things that I personally want to purchase initially when I start a team or whatever I decide to do, because I already have like a Zoom recorder. So like I have an outside recording device that I can use if need be. I have a regular camera that's like a Canon, Canon T4i or whatever. So like it's not even great for low light. But like, you're right, less is more. You don't always need a lot of equipment. Sometimes it just comes down to what you have might just work for you.
Yep. We'll be right back. Okay. Well,
it's been a long one.
It's been a long one. But I do have just a couple of just final thoughts. Talking about solo investigating and stuff. I do have mixed feelings on that, of course. If you're not of legal age to be out doing things, then don't go somewhere by yourself.
If you have a legal curfew,
probably not. But I tell people, if you're going to investigate things by yourself, because sometimes I do believe investigating by yourself would pose better results than with a group. In which case, I do not go on investigations alone, just because I've heard of so many things happening. And with my health issues, I would just rather not.
That's fair.
But, I mean, going off, like, separating, for sure. But I do want to say, though, if you are going to a location and you are going to be by, yourself, please send people your location. Let them know what time you're planning on being back, or if you have a hotel, that kind of thing. Send that to, like, a person that you really trust.
Life 360 is also a decent app, I think, that you can use with your friends, like, just for that kind of thing if you need it.
Yeah, and I say that just because, again, take everything with a grain of salt, as far as, like, we have our opinions about groups and what we like and what we dislike and everything. But one thing that I will say is good about a group is you have people that know where you're going, and you have people, and they'll keep in contact with you and make sure you're safe, because you'll walk up and there could be a homeless person in that building. There could be
anything.
A drug deal happening around that building. Like, there could be so many things that are happening where you just really need someone in your corner and in your space.
Even if it's just like a building that you have permission to go into and all this, or like a residence or something, you could be walking to your car alone and need help, So like, especially, and I hate doing this, but like, especially if you're a woman, you know what I'm saying? Like, out here in this time frame, like, just be cautious. Let people know where you're going. If you're a guy, you should too. You absolutely should, because, we don't like to talk about how guys can also go missing, but they can. Things can happen. You can get hurt. You could trip over something and break your leg, and then not have, in an abandoned building or wherever you are, and, So, it's just best. It really is best to have either a team or have people know what's going on. You're incredibly right about that, and I'm glad that you've touched on that.
And I mean, I'm planning on doing like a video outside of podcasts where I kind of break down Investigation 101, which I think is really important because it's becoming so mainstream now, which is cool that other people are getting into it, but just kind of a good list of a rundown for you guys, so to speak, so we can so I can give you guys some tips that I've learned along the way, and things that I thought you had to do that you really don't. It really doesn't freaking matter. People just say it does, but it really doesn't, kind of thing. So, but yeah, thanks for talking with me about this.
Of course.
I think it is super cool, especially now understanding your more intuitive side and neurological side. It's
which is cool.
Two very different ends of the spectrum, but we want to yield the same results, which we do. Is really neat.
And I think we also both you come at it from a logic-based point, and while I try to, I will say, I always try to come at it logically first, and then go, okay, I can't, I'm either getting this intuitive hit or whatever, so I'm going to write this down for later. I'm not going to make a big deal about it and be like, guys, I feel something right now. No, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to write it down and be like, hey, at this time, I was thinking about this, or I was feeling this, and this is a little strange.
Right.
Like, in the video that I showed you and everything, I have a physical reaction to a actual phenomenon that's happening behind me, and I didn't know.
Video. I don't know. I'm going to try to figure out how to insert it in here, but if I can't, I'll definitely share it.
But that was some really cool proof, because I had a vision in my head of the woman coming behind me and looking at what I was doing, and right before I had that vision in my head of that happening, and I started stuttering a little bit, there was an entity that you can see on camera that kind of sweeps behind me.
It's actually really cool.
It's cool. I was impressed.
Some of the cooler evidence that I've seen in a long time.
The first one I ever went on too, so I was like, damn, we got some good stuff.
You came out of the gate hot, but no, I mean, I think that this poses now that we're going to have to do an investigation together or something.
I think you better let me come with you. I really want to.
I think we're going to have to do an investigation together at some point, and of course we'll film it for you guys, because it's going to be... Well, I know it'll be wild, because... But
I didn't even panic in that moment, because I had the vision. I didn't even talk about it. I was just like, we'll come back to this. And I'm just glad that I remembered that, because there was a physical phenomenon that validated me behind the situation.
It's super cool.
But anyway, thank you so much for having me on with this one, too. I know I'm going to piss some people off with my words, but
it's fine.
I don't care.
It's a learning thing.
It's a learning thing, and you know what? They're none of my business. They're living their lives, loving their lives, and I'm loving mine over here, so...
Yeah, no. But thank you guys so much for watching and everything. Check us out on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and YouTube. I have to remember all of these things now.
You're doing so good. I'm excited.
But yeah, and of course you can always go to Anchor and support us if you would like. There's 3 different tiers or whatever, 99 cents, $4.99, and $9.99. That's just going to help us get some more equipment and get us out into the field.
And worst case scenario, you can always put extra content somewhere.
Yeah. I had thought about doing a Patreon and doing actual location investigations, and sharing that footage with you guys. So that is also in the cards. But yeah, we will talk to you guys next time.
Bye.